In today's world, data breaches happen all the time, and even the most secure companies can't always protect their employees' personal information from ending up in the wrong hands. That's where Delete Me comes in. Delete Me is a service that removes your employees' sensitive information from hundreds of data broker websites, sites where hackers can find phone numbers and emails within seconds. Rachel Toback, CEO of Social Proof Security, says attackers use this data to target employees with phishing messages and AI-powered phone scams. But Delete Me makes it harder for these bad actors by scrubbing your employees' details regularly. It's simple. Attackers are lazy. If it's too hard to find contact info, they'll move on to easier targets. Delete Me takes care of this for you, doing the heavy lifting so you don't have to. And over time, they keep removing the information so it stays down, protecting your team from constant exposure. If your business has a social presence or deals with clients, you need Delete Me. Visit deleteme.com/404media and start safeguarding your team's information today. That's deleteme.com/404media.
Hello, and welcome to the 404 Media Podcast, where we bring you unparalleled access to hidden worlds, both online and IRL. 404 Media is a journalist-founded company and needs your support. To subscribe, go to 404media.co. As well as bonus content every single week, subscribers also get access to additional episodes where we respond to their best comments. Gain access to that content at 404media.co. I'm your host, Joseph, and with me are all of the 404 Media co-founders, the first being Sam Cole.
Hey.
Emmanuel Mayberg.
Hello.
And Jason Kebler.
Hello, hello. We have new Doom. Oh, yeah, this is on the document. I should have waited for you. You were about to say it. You were about to bring it up, and I preempted you. We have a tank top for order up for pre-sale on our Shopify page. This is by huge request. Lots of people actually emailed me asking for a tank top. I think it's really cool. It features the actual code from Doom. It's a 404 ASCII art. Sam, you want to talk about it? Because I feel like you were the sort of originator of this this design.
It was me and Ronan Wood, who's our designer of most of our merch, or he's the one who puts the cool logos onto the shirts and hats and things. It was like weirdly hard for us to find just like the raw Doom code, which is probably fully a skill issue. But he and I both were like hunting for days, being like, where the fuck do they put just like the regular ass code that is in everything? Apparently, it's running on like refrigerators and toothbrushes and stuff. But yeah, I think he found it, or one of us found it without having to run Python or something. It was it was a weird process.
It's been open source since like 1999
Right.
or something like that. But however, I also went to go fact check this after we had already placed the order with the printer. And I was like, where is the Doom code? What does it say? And it's on GitHub. There's many files. So I wasn't actually sure like which one to grab.
It looks good. It looks good on the tank top. It looks fantastic. So check it out.
Yeah. They put Doom on a shirt.
That's good. And it's open source, as you said. So, id, please don't sue us. I mean, they're not going to do that. And I'm just going to cover our asses now. Doom the Dark Ages, really, really good game. See, now they can't be mad at us. You know, so
404 Media endorses the Dark Ages. Yeah.
We don't really do endorsements, but that's like the one we're probably going to do. All right. Emmanuel, do you want to take this first story?
Yeah. So our first story is from Jason and Joe. The headline is ICE taps into nationwide AI-enabled camera network data shows. You guys worked on this for quite a while, and the camera network in question here is Flock. It's a service called Flock, which we've covered several times over the years, but I'm sure not everyone is familiar with it. Maybe let's start with, what is Flock? How does it work? How common is it?
Yeah, so Flock is an automated license plate reader camera. It basically like sits at different intersections or just different places on a road, and it scans the license plates of cars as they drive by. And Flock, I believe it's the most popular one. It's at least it's one that's used by different homeowners associations and neighborhood watch groups. There's also a Motorola one that is extremely widely used, but Flock is sort of like a Silicon Valley startup whose CEO has said that he wants to use these to get rid of crime everywhere. And so that's the pitch is put these in and over time we will completely eliminate crime, which is obviously a very, very, very lofty claim. And so over the last few years, they've kind of gone state by state, city by city, trying to sell these both to neighborhood watch groups and shopping malls and places like that, but then also, of course, to the police, to local police. And so over time, there has become a very large network of Flock cameras. So it's not just, the city of Dallas that has access to Flock cameras. It's once you're in it, you can query the cameras of other uh, states and municipalities. You can do either a statewide search or you can do a nationwide search. And so in some cases, you can, say you're a local police department, you can say, hey, I'm looking for this license plate of a stolen vehicle. And you're not just searching the cameras that you have personally bought and paid the subscription fee for. You can search all the ones in your state, all the ones in the country if you want to. So it's become this massive network of tens of thousands of devices, and you really can't drive in many major cities and even some small towns at this point without driving by one of these things.
The AI of it, is that the ability to find and identify the license plates? Is that the AI portion of it?
I think it's that. I think it's the fact that it's all sort of connected in one of these larger networks. And then also in the second half of this show, spoiler alert, Joseph will talk more about features that are being added to Flock that are going to make them smarter and more, I guess, more like AI-ified.
Well, it's that, and you can be like, I want to search for all red cars that were in this area, and there's some sort of object recognition there, and some people may be like, oh, that's not really AI. It's well, yeah, it's not ChatGPT, but it is AI or machine learning, I guess.
So what is this data that we got?
Yeah. So very crucially, there is something that cops who have Flock are able to look up themselves, and it's called an audit report. And basically, this audit report allows the cops of any given city to find out how many times their cameras have been searched. So, as I said, you can either opt into a nationwide network or a statewide network. And in this case, the Danville, Illinois Police Department has opted their own cameras into both a statewide network and a nationwide network of Flock, meaning that I don't know if it's any, but many, many, many different police departments from around the country, when they are searching for a license plate or searching for whatever they're doing, when they're doing a Flock query, they are pinging the Danville Police Department's Flock cameras. They're pinging their database of whatever cars have driven by them. And so this is a feature that Flock cameras have that allow police to do compliance stuff, to basically if someone says a city council member says show me all the times that our Flock cameras are accessed, they can go in and download this data. And so some researchers filed a public records request with the Danville Police Department and got all of the times that their cameras had been queried over the last year, I believe. And it was 6 million times. And so this just means that they were effectively grabbing what we believe to be a pretty comprehensive picture of how police are querying Flock cameras all around the country. And in these like basically it was a massive CSV spreadsheet file. And like for each individual entry, it says the police department that searched Flock's network. It says it shows like how many devices were searched. In this case, it was sometimes like 40, 50,000 different devices across the country, which we believe means like 40 to 50,000 different cameras across the country. And then crucially, they need to put a reason for doing that search. And for many of these, just says like stolen car, property theft, things like that. But for a lot of them, for between 4 and 5,000 of them, it says immigration, or it will say HSI, which is Homeland Security Investigations, which is a division of Flock, or sorry, is a division of ICE. Sometimes it just says ICE. Sometimes it says immigration. And then sometimes it says ICE plus ERO, which is enforcement removal operations, I believe. I don't have it in front of me right now, but it's basically the division of ICE that does deportations. Crucially, there was like some searches from the Dallas Police Department that were doing that. So basically, this shows that uh, local cops around the country were searching Flock cameras to do immigration enforcement. And crucially, they were doing it on behalf of the Department of Homeland Security, HSI, and also ICE.
So if the FBI and doing an investigation of Sam has committed some horrible crime, and I want her call records, I can go to AT&T with a warrant and be like, show me Sam's call records. That is not exactly what we're seeing here with Flock. Like, how would you describe the process by which ICE or other police departments are getting this license plate data?
Yeah, so a few things. One, ICE does not have a contract to use Flock. Like, neither does the Department of Homeland Security, of which ICE is a part. So right now, the feds supposedly do not have the software that allows them to do these queries directly. So they can't like open up a Flock dashboard and say, show me all the license plates that drove by this specific intersection or whatever. Like they don't have that ability. They haven't procured that. They haven't procured Flock, which has, a process where they're like taking bids and they're purchasing the software and they're like kind of legally allowed to use it because they bought it. What's happening here is local police are doing these searches for ICE and or the Department of Homeland Security. And we talked to, like, I emailed, I think, like 25 different police departments. Joseph emailed probably like 20 of them. And what they're saying is, in some cases, these are like formal requests from the Department of Homeland Security. Like the feds are saying, hey, look this up. We're trying to solve this crime or whatever. And they're doing that. In other cases, they said it was, quote, informal, meaning someone just like asking for a favor. And what's notable is that police feel like they don't need to get a warrant to search Flock because it's something that they're like, it's a service that they're paying for. And we see this with a lot of surveillance technology where, like, if you're buying it from a private company, they feel like they don't need to get a warrant. There's like various court cases right now from people saying, like, arguing that they should need to get a warrant, but currently cops are not getting warrants. And so what's happening is basically like the feds are getting either backdoor or side door access to Flock's system without paying for it. I say backdoor or side door because like experts I talked to both called it both of those things. There's no real like distinction here, but basically they're getting like unofficial access to this incredibly powerful surveillance network through local police. And there's like no oversight of this whatsoever. There's like no meaningful oversight. And so, like, sure, I believe that ICE could probably enter a contract with Flock and get direct access to this. Like, there's nothing that I know of that would stop them from doing that. But they haven't done that yet. And this is a really powerful network. And they have access to it through this like pretty unofficial mechanism.
So what do you think? Why do you think it matters that ICE has this access? Is there like a legal implication for them being able to do this? Like, isn't the fact that they're getting this informal access indicate that they're unable to do it officially at the moment? Like, you go in the story, you talk quite a bit about like what ICE is, or not ICE, like local agencies are able or not able to do in terms of helping ICE with immigration enforcement.
Yeah, so a few things. One, I've learned over the last, I mean, a lot of people probably have known this for a while, but I've learned reporting on this and the Massive Blue story that we did like a month ago, that generally local and state police do not have jurisdiction over immigration matters. Like they are not allowed to say, hey, you're in the country illegally. We are going to detain you. Like that is specifically a federal function. But what Trump has done and what Trump has become very like obsessed with is the idea of empowering local police to enforce immigration laws. And they've done that through this program called 287G, which is it's just like an ICE program that uh, different police departments have to apply to. And then ICE says, okay, we are empowering you. It's like a delegation, is what it's called. We're delegating to you the authority to conduct some like immigration enforcement type stuff. So the concern here is that like this incredibly powerful nationwide network of license plate cameras is going to be used to, pick up people for ICE, but also that uh, this surveillance network has been built, this like apparatus has been built largely by going community to community and saying like, we're going to use this to find stolen cars, or we're going to use this to, uh, you know, help prevent or solve really violent crime, things like that. And a lot like Flock is in a lot of liberal neighborhoods, like largely according to both what we've reported on, but also the experts that I spoke to. Like a lot of them were saying it's like rich people trying to protect their homes and stuff like that. And by and large, like at city council meetings where they discuss, like, should we buy this? Should we not? They're like, oh, we're going to use this to solve violent crimes. And it seems to me, based on talking to different police departments, that a lot of them don't really understand that they have like accidentally opted themselves into this large surveillance network that is being used by cops all over the country for all sorts of things. And they don't even know what it's being used for in many cases. Like I talked to some of the cops about different searches that they ran, and they were like, oh yeah, like someone on our force did that search, but we don't like exactly know why.
So what can you talk a bit, because you point out the legal issue with them helping ICE and federal agencies with immigration stuff. You're pointing out that the reason field in the searches very clearly says that these are immigration or ICE issues, and they say what? Like, what are the responses to that contradiction?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes so it's ends up being like quite a complicated story in some ways, because this came from Illinois, which is one of the few states that actually explicitly bans their police from working with ICE. They have a law that is basically makes it like a sanctuary state, and so like all the cops there are like, oh no, that wasn't for immigration. We're not allowed to do that. We comply with Illinois law. But then I show them like a spreadsheet thing that says, well, it says here that you did this for quote immigration violation or something like that. And they'll be like, oh yeah, but that was like a specific criminal case. And yes, the person might have been illegal or undocumented or whatever. They might have had like a not legal immigration status, but that's not what it was for. And in many cases, they weren't able to tell me what it was specifically for, either because they didn't know. Like some of them said straight up, like, we actually don't know why this search was run, and we don't know why it said immigration there, because like I believe it's because access to Flock is just like so widespread. It's like it was described to me by some of the experts we spoke to as like a Google search engine for cars. So it's like, oh, I'm doing this case, gonna go on Flock and like type in what I'm looking for. And because there's like very few restrictions on how it's used, cops are just using it for like whatever. And it's like, if I asked you, why did you Google that thing 3 weeks ago? You might not be able to tell me specifically what it was for. Or maybe even more to the point, if someone asked me why Sam or Joseph Googled something, I'll be like, maybe it was for this story, but I have no idea what it was actually for. And so it seems like access to this like massive surveillance network is now so commonplace that the cops don't even know like why they are searching it half of the time. Um, and I think that that's like very notable actually, because we've built a system that can track the movements of anyone with a car in the United States, which many of these communities are unlivable without a car. Like you need a car to go anywhere. And at first, this was a technology that was built for local police to, you know, again, find stolen cars, to find people who like find robbers and like murderers and stuff like that. And now it's being used in this way to help the feds under an administration that has become obsessed with undocumented immigrants. And so we've like built this like surveillance apparatus, and it's just being used in like a really commonplace way, in a way that I find to be like really concerning.
I think
I don't know if that answers your question. I don't even remember what your question was, but like that's why I think the story is important.
the comparison to Google, I think, is very good and a good transition into the next story we're going to talk about. But I guess just before we go to that, back at Motherboard, we did a bunch of stories, most of them from Caroline Haskins, who is now at Wired, about Ring. And I see a lot of parallels with Ring in the sense that it is a device that is sold to groups or individuals. And as the product is getting popular and widespread, people don't realize that they're building out this network that can be accessed by cops. How would you say this compares uh, to Ring in terms of like the surveillance dystopian aspect of it? Like better, worse, comparable?
I think it's I think it's an apt comparison in terms of like the business model and sort of how it works. I think Ring didn't ever have a like they haven't sold tons and tons of Ring devices to cops directly. Like that was something where they were selling it to homeowners, and then homeowners were opting into this system where cops could access it. And
But cops were like pitching Ring to communities.
yeah, because cops were basically trying to get this like ad hoc network of just like thousands of Ring cameras in an individual community. And that was like sold originally as like, we will use this to make sure that people don't steal your Amazon packages. And then it became something larger than that. And there's been all sorts of privacy concerns with Ring, security concerns with Ring. We don't need to get into it. But basically, it started out as something that was like for consumers and then was used by cops. What Flock is, it was initially pitched to, again, like neighborhood watch groups and homeowners associations. And they can share that information with cops. But now I believe, I'm not positive that this is the case, but I believe that the vast majority of Ring cameras are sort of like bought and operated by cops. So it's become more of a specific police technology. But the nationwide network thing is really very important and very, very similar. I think Flock is actually maybe more concerning than Ring because all of the systems interconnect. So like, I don't know, you could track a person across the entire country if they were to drive across the country, and you could track their movements and things like that. And it's funny because a lot of the cops say, well, we're not tracking people, we're just tracking cars. And it's like, well, who do you think is in
Yeah.
these cars?
Cars that specific people own. Yeah.
Yeah, and that'll go directly into Joseph's next story. But it is very much like you cannot move around this country without being tracked passively. And I should have said this at the top, because every time we talk about Flock, I feel like most people understand the issue, or like what is being built here, but it's like these are not speed cameras. They have nothing to do with speed cameras. They have nothing to do with red light cameras. They catch every single car that drives by the camera, and they add it to like their database, and with a timestamp and all that sort of thing. It has nothing to do with like, oh well, just don't speed or just don't run a red light and you'll be fine. It's like there's a database of your movements if you drive by one of these. And we've written about it before, but there's an open source project called DFlock that is trying to track where these are. And if you look at that, you'll see they're in a lot of like every mid-sized city, tons of suburbs, lots of big cities. They're in many, many, many US cities.
So we'll leave that there, as Joe says, and we'll take a break, and then we'll come back with the other Flock story.
My dad is a real storyteller. He loves to tell me all about his adventures and his misadventures while we're grilling or sitting around a backyard fire. But I don't have one place to keep all of his stories, which is why this year, for Father's Day, I'm getting him and me Storyworth memoirs. Each week, Storyworth emails your dad or other loved one a memory-provoking question that you get to help pick. Questions like, did you ever get into trouble in school? Or what were your favorite toys as a child? All your loved one needs to do is respond to that email with a story. They can either write a story over email or record it over the phone for Storyworth to transcribe. You'll be emailed a copy of your loved one's response as they're submitted over the course of the year. You'll get to enjoy their retelling of the stories you already know, or be surprised by the stories you've never heard before. After a year, Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book. It's a treasure you'll be able to share and revisit for generations. Customers love Storyworth. They've preserved millions of family stories since their founding over 10 years ago. They have more than 40,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot, and The Wirecutter, The Strategist, CNN, and more agree Storyworth is the perfect gift for people you love the most. I can't wait to get my dad's Storyworth answers compiled so I can pass it on to my own kids one day. Give the dads in your life a unique, heartfelt gift you'll all cherish for years. Storyworth. Right now, save $15 during their Father's Day sale when you go to storyworth.com/404. That's storyworth.com/404 to save $15 on your order.
Hey, it's Joseph again. If you're a new listener to the 404 Media Podcast, or even a long-time one, you might not be aware of all of the impact our journalism has had recently, or how we even got here in the first place. In 2023, the four of us quit corporate media to go independent. We were sick of working for a VC-backed company that put profits before journalism. That gave birth to 404 Media. Since then, we've stopped the spread of AI books in public libraries, triggered class action lawsuits against AI companies, got Congress to pressure big tech in various ways, and we've even shut down surveillance companies. This real-world impact is only possible because of our paying subscribers. As a journalist-owned business, they are the engine that powers our journalism, and where the vast, vast majority of our revenue comes from. So please consider signing up today for $10 a month or $100 a year at 404media.co/membership and get bonus content every week and access to all of our articles. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
And we are back with a story that Joseph did that's extremely related. This is a Flock mega episode. We should have said that up top. But license plate reader company Flock is building a massive people lookup tool, leak shows. Uh, so this leads on to some of the things we were talking about in the first segment about tracking people versus cars, tracking cars versus people, the AI parts of Flock and things like that. Joseph, this story is about Nova, which is a new tool from Flock. What is it and how are they marketing it to cops?
Yeah, so Nova is this new product which I believe they're rolling out or at least advertising and marketing to cops at the moment. And it's almost like an add on to the Flock network. So if you thought that automatic license plate reading technology, as you say, following cars and by extension drivers all across the United States was invasive enough, or maybe should require a warrant or whatever, this is now going to add additional information to those searches. And I'm looking at the Flock website now with a page about Nova, and it says you can, quote, see the full story, connect people, vehicles, and locations across agencies. Nova helps you solve crime and prevent the next one faster. And it's supposed to bring all of your agency's data in one place, so video and 911 calls, and of course the Flock automatic license plate reader networks as well. But scrolling through this page, like I am now, as I said, it's kind of all marketing speak. It doesn't actually really talk about what the Nova tool is or what data it uses. And that is what this story is about, which is based on a leak that we got from Flock.
Yeah, so was the Nova page up by the time we did this article?
It was. I'm not sure if we actually quoted it explicitly. Maybe we did an earlier draft.
Well, there's almost nothing about it, as you said. Like what a next gen public safety data platform actually is wasn't known, and so you had a source who leaked you information about what it is. Actually, some information from within Flock and the problems that people had with it at the company. So, I mean, what sort of data is included in Flock? Or sorry, in Nova, and what is this product?
Yeah, so as you say, the marketing material is really sparse, but then when you go through the leak, there's some, I would say, incredibly interesting and illuminating stuff in there. The first being the Nova plans to at least use hacked data. So that is data from breaches that's being published online, and that could be then married with the automatic license plate reader data as well. And one concrete example they give is Park Mobile, an app that was hacked a while ago. You actually use Park Mobile, right, Jason? What is it?
Park Mobile is a smartphone app that you use to park mobilely off your mobile device. No, so a lot of states, a lot of cities have replaced their parking meters with Park Mobile. So basically, you put in your license plate, and then when you park in a specific spot that would normally have a parking meter or like a publicly owned parking lot, you say, "Hey, I'm parked here. I'm parked in this spot. Give me an hour. Give me 2 hours," and you pay with Apple Pay or whatever.
Right.
Some places also, like, people don't have coins anymore. So a lot of like the coin operated parking meters will have an option to use Park Mobile instead of that. It's extremely common. It's very, very, very common. I see it all the time as a driver.
And when you sign up, you presumably have to tell them about your car, right?
Yeah,
like
they need to know what car it is, because otherwise you're going to get a parking ticket. Like someone is going to come by and give you a parking ticket. So you have to put in the make, model, and the usually the color and the license plate.
Right, which is all information, which is very, very interesting. Very, very interesting to Flock, right? So
I want to highlight here. You just said it, but this is hacked data. Data from Park Mobile. It's like Flock didn't go and buy this from Park Mobile, did they? From what we can tell.
I'm not exactly sure where the Park Mobile breach was, but given the date, which was 2021, that was the date of the breach itself. It was probably on breach forums or one of these other pretty low-level hacking forums where stuff gets often published publicly. So there's this 2021 breach of Park Mobile. That data includes people's email addresses, phone numbers, and mailing addresses. Now, Nova, this new add-on from Flock, is planning to marry that data with the automatic license plate reader information. So let's say you type in a plate number, you look it up, and you're like, okay, that car drove all across Chicago or whatever. Well, maybe the tool could return actually who that car belongs to instantly. And maybe cops can go figure that out themselves, and they do that all the time, right? They'll get a plate and they'll go off and they'll go to the DMV and figure out, well, who's that vehicle registered to and that sort of thing. But this is allowing Flock Nova users to do it basically instantaneously, at least potentially.
Well, it also has like your email address and things like that as well, because you have to make a Park Mobile account. So, I mean, I don't actually know because we haven't seen Nova in action, but I could imagine it correlating your car not just with your identity, but also with like your contact information, which could be very valuable for police who are investigating you.
Yeah, and I mean, again, you stressed it, but I will do that as well. This it's a trend of companies taking hacked data from, I mean, I hate to say it, the dark web, or it's just posted online or something. They then maybe clean it up if necessary. They bundle it together with other data, and then they sell that to law enforcement. We did a story years ago back at Motherboard when we were there. I'm looking at it now from July 2020, and that was some company I think called SpyCloud, and they would have breached passwords and all of that sort of thing, and then they were selling access to that tool to law enforcement as well. And that was, I think, more for uncovering people's identities probably online, maybe in cybercrime or in child abuse investigations, that sort of thing. This is way more physical because you are marrying somebody's movements, their vehicle, with their identity. And of course, there's lots of other data that I'm sure we'll talk about as well. It's not just the hack stuff.
Right. So what else is in here though? Because it's not just Park Mobile; it's other things too.
Yeah, there's two other main types, and one is, quote, commercially available data, end quote. And that comes up a lot, especially when we've written about location data over the past several years, and there's all of these data brokers out there where you can just go and buy information from them, essentially. And the leak we got specifically mentioned Equifax and TransUnion. And I'll say straight away, Equifax didn't respond to a request for comment, and TransUnion denied having any business relationship with Flock. That being said, this tool is still being developed and worked out, right? But the sort of data you would get from an Equifax or a TransUnion, like a credit bureau, is that in the United States, when somebody opens a credit card or a line of credit, they provide their physical address, their contact information, their name, all of that sort of thing. This is called the credit header. It's like the PII bit of your credit report that then gets sent to TransUnion, Equifax, etc. And sometimes they then rebundle that and then sell that or transfer that to other people. One example is TransUnion's tool TLOXP, which they sell to like PIs and sort of stuff like that. So you can see definitely how that sort of information would be very useful to Nova or a Nova-like tool where, okay, I have the license plate, I figured out their identity, now I can get their mailing address or this other personal information that they handed over to TransUnion. And then the third one, which we didn't really get into much in the piece because it's sort of mentioned in passing in the material we got, but it's public records. And that's stuff like marriage licenses, property records, even campaign finance records. So you look at somebody's vehicle and then what? You're saying who they're married to? And I mean, that's explicitly the goal, is to get not just the driver, but the people they are associated with as well.
Yeah, I think that's an important point because this administration in particular has been really obsessed with like figuring out networks of people and who they've associated with and things like that. Okay, so you also, besides like figuring out what this is, you also, had some people inside Flock talking about how they felt about it. You had, I believe it was leaked Slack messages. Um, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
there
what are
was.
people inside Flock saying about this?
Sure, yeah, it was leaked Slacks, and there was also audio of a meeting. And this meeting, I think, was very, very telling because it really crystallized what Flock imagines this product could be. And because it's all fine to say, oh, we're going to take data from here and marry it to this data, and that's like, a little bit technical, and maybe it's not really on the nose enough for people. But some of the quotes from this audio is, quote, "You're going to be able to access data and jump from LPR, license plate reader, to person." So it's incredibly explicit in its goal, in that we're not just tracking vehicles anymore, we're tracking people. And that is the entire thinking behind this tool. And then in some of the Slack chats, I don't think I go into them in particular detail, but there are people worried about what exactly this tool is, what it's going to be capable of, and especially the hacked data stuff. There are people talking about, like, well, if Flock got hacked, would it be okay for then another company to use our data? Like, you can't really take hacked data from the internet and then, if it happened to you, complain about it as well. Because as you said, it's just wild that a company is taking hacked information in the first place at all.
Right. And I think that brings us to the last question that I have for now, which is basically like, we have these cops saying this actually just tracks cars. It's not anything more than that. And yet here you have Flock saying publicly it's a next gen public safety data platform. And it's really making this network much more powerful, I believe. So I mean, is this more invasive than just having ALPR data on its own?
Yeah, I think one of the hard things about covering automatic license plate reader cameras is that people will often default to, well, it's just my car. And like, as you said in the previous segment, some people think it's just about speeding or running a red light or something, which is crazy to me. I hadn't actually heard that complaint. So do people actually say that to us, Jason? Do people write in and say
I mean,
that?
I see it a lot on social media.
Okay.
Just as in, like, I'll publish a story about Flock, and then people will like quote tweet it and say like, "Oh well, just don't run a red light." Then, like, people don't understand
Right.
what they are still, even though this technology has now been around for like quite a long time, and we've written about it a lot, but so have a lot of other outlets as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a challenge of covering it, because people might think that, or they'll think, well, it's just tracking my vehicle or other people's vehicles. You could just take a bus or something. I don't know, but I disagree with that.
The other argument is that, like, well, don't own a car, bike everywhere and walk everywhere, which is
completely impractical.
I mean, it's just like I'm pretty anti-car, like, in concept, but it's just like it's not possible in many suburbs city. Like, the United States is not designed for that at this moment, and like that's one of the reasons.
Yeah,
car culture is bad, etc. But it's like people have cars because they like need them to get to work and things like that, because they live in places where it's impractical to take public transit or bike.
yeah. So I already think that license plate reading technology is incredibly invasive. We did a story back at Motherboard where a source had access to a different tool used, actually, I think, by federal law enforcement and private investigators, and they looked up with consent a specific person, and like, it mapped out their entire movements. It really, really was incredibly invasive. So I already believe that. Now you add on something like Nova, which is taking all of this different data from around the web and potentially other sources as well, and marrying it with the license plate reader data. I mean, it's absolutely more invasive. And I think it does bring up the question again of, like, should authorities get a warrant for this? Because in the vast majority of cases, they don't. And as you said, there are lawsuits going on arguing that's unconstitutional. And if that's already unconstitutional with just the license plate reading data, maybe it's more significant with this stuff as well.
Yeah. All right. Should we leave it there? And I'll give it back to you to read to say the end parts, because I don't remember what they are.
Of course. No, I'm happy to do that. If you are listening to the free version of the podcast, I will now play us out. But if you are a paying 404 Media subscriber, we're going to talk about Civitai, the AI platform that Emmanuel has covered an absolute ton, and some truly radical changes it has made, much of it in response to our reporting and the actions of payment processors as well. You can subscribe and gain access to that content at 404media.co. As a reminder, 404 Media is journalist-founded and supported by subscribers. If you do wish to subscribe to 404 Media and directly support our work, please go to 404media.co. You'll get unlimited access to our articles and an ad-free version of this podcast. You'll also get to listen to the subscribers-only section, where we talk about a bonus story each week. This podcast is made in partnership with Kaleidoscope. Another way to support us is by leaving a 5-star rating and review for the podcast. That stuff really helps us out. Here is one of those from Booger Maroney. I can't say enough good things about this crew and their reporting. Surprisingly even-handed given the content and the nature of their coverage. A take on things I wouldn't have reached for by default, and a lack of reverence that is very refreshing. Thank you. This has been 404 Media. We will see you again next week.